Okay, this one is about a solar powered light. Now, I've seen these things around, and this company sent me one of these things to test. And in a way, I'm kind of an advocate for this type of light because there's no power hookup to it, and there's no power usage. It just operates off the sun. Great idea. The company is Hykoont. The light is a TW030. And I've had this thing mounted at my home for about 2 months. And I've kind of went through the things that it does well and the things it doesn't do so well. So first, let's just kind of take a look at this light and see what it's made up of. It has a solar panel integral to the light. There is some problem with that in that, it has to be situated where it can get sun. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be south facing. It could be west facing, it could be east facing, and it still works fairly well. North facing, I have not tried it, so I'm not sure how well it's going to work there because it is going to be angled towards the north, and probably in the winter months you're not going to do very good. But it's fairly simple in the setup because there's not much really to do. It has a remote control. I'll go over the remote control in a little while, but I want to just kind of look inside this thing and find out what's actually there. It's very simple. There's a little tiny electronic board in there, and there are some lithium batteries. Now, the company says the lithium batteries are 25 amp hours. Now that's at 3.2 volts. So it's not huge. It's not a huge battery, but it's actually fairly good size for what I expected. The power output, they say, is 300 watts. It's not 300 watts. That's probably a comparative number. 300 watts incandescent, let's say, puts out that much. I'm not sure that's what it is. But I compared it at night. This is mounted on a shop wall, the gable of a shop. And I put another light up there, and I put a 100 watt LED light that I had put together years ago. And I compared the two. Okay, it's a little bit different light because it's more yellow in it, but you can see a comparison there of how much light this thing actually puts out. And it actually does pretty good. Now, this thing has to charge up during the day. I haven't, I've tried to run this thing in many different ways as I could, but I got it in late spring, and we're at the summer solstice right now, so the sun's going to be as good as it's ever going to get in this thing. And right now, if you look at this little illustration, it's got these blinky lights on it. There's red, blue, and green. Okay, when it's charging, the green light's blinking, and the amount that it's charged is the red lights and the blue lights. And when it gets to 100%, the green light stops blinking, so it's totally charged up. That has been happening somewhere between 11 and 12:30 most days. Now, some of these days are partly overcast, and it's a little longer, although it doesn't seem to take a lot longer, at least not with the sun as high as it is. But it will charge pretty quick. It actually charges faster than they say it will. At least that's what I've had happen here. Now, one thing this thing won't do, and I have not run this through a winter, if there's snow on top of this thing, it won't charge it at all. The snow has to be off of it. one way or another. It's true of all solar panels. That's just the way they work. Snow stops them dead. So let's talk a little bit about how the thing operates. There's a remote control with it that you can change how this thing is set up. And if you look at the remote, the center button on the remote tells you, just push it and the light blinks on and then goes to whatever you've set it for. So if I'm out there, there's an on-off on the top, then there's the center button. That center button is going to put it on, it's going to run at 30% output. It'll go to 100% when it senses someone near it. And you can see by, as I'm doing this, how close you have to get to it. Now note that light is 18 feet off the ground. It's quite high. So when you get close to it, it's going to come on. Doesn't stay on that long once you leave. There's also 25, 50, 75%, and 100% on the remote. And if you want to turn it on, you hit the on button and hit it to 25%, it's going to be at 25%. And it'll go through the entire night that way, and then it'll go back to whatever it was set before. If you want it to run, say 2, 3, let's see, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8 hours. If you want it to run at, say, 100% for 8 hours, you would hit the 8-hour thing. And it will go ahead and do that. The way I've been running this thing, I set it for 100%, and it starts out when the sun goes down, it comes on to 100%, stays at 100% the entire night, and then it of course shuts off during the day. And the next night doing the same thing. I've done this for like 2 months. The reason I set it that way is because I wanted to test it to see if the lights would dim before the sun came up. So far it has not done that. Now we've had pretty good sun, you know, spring and summer, but it has not dimmed. There's been plenty of power. Now I would recommend, if you're going to run something like this, I would recommend putting it in the motion sensor mode so that it will go to 30% when you're not there and go to 100% when you're there. The reason I say that is the weak thing on these things is going to be the batteries. And so you want to discharge the batteries the least amount you can get away with and still have what you need. So I would set it, the motion sensor button, I would have that one on, and it'll give you kind of a night light at that 30%, but it won't run the battery down as much. This isn't really a mounting video, but I'll give you a little bit on it. There's got some thunder studs in there, you know, cement anchors. If you're putting it into a cement wall, it's got long bolts for putting it, mounting it on a pole, or you can mount it on a gable like this one's done, and put the and either use lags or use the long bolts to mount it. It kind of sticks out on a pole, and it's not real heavy material, but it's held up pretty good. I've got some video here of pretty high wind conditions, and I think it's about 50-55 mile an hour winds, and it doesn't move hardly at all or anything. It seems to be fine. So overall, is this a good product? It works as advertised. It seems to be reasonably stout. It's the light itself is made of ABS plastic, which is probably as good as anything, you're gonna get out there. So, because you don't have to wire it, you don't have to power it, that's all good. I mean, power wouldn't be a big deal if you're using LED lights anyway, but the wiring is. You have to wire these silly things. The biggest negative that I can see is a potential negative is the batteries failing. Usually LED lights, they're supposed to be, 50,000 hours or some crazy thing. I don't know that they do that. I've had them that, I don't have anything that's got 50,000 hours on it, but I've had some fail. There's been some lights I've had that are, they run for a while and then they fail. But, and I don't know on the longevity of this thing. So far it's run perfectly. I think this thing is viable for the application that I put it on. Would it be better to have more of them? Probably. More light's always better, especially if you're old geezers like me. But the light does perform well. I can't find anything really wrong with it. If you have multiple lights like this, I think you're going to have to find some place to put these remotes, and I assume one remote is not going to work with others. I don't know for sure. Maybe it does, because I only have one of these things. But what would be kind of nice if they had was a little plastic mount to mount the remote on. I think that would be pretty good. But other than that, it's a good one. That's it in this one.